right, welcome back, and of course it is still Nigeria Decides 2023, broadcasting to you from Vanguard Live Studios in Lagos, and of course my name still remains Ido Bankole, and we still have in the studio the general editor of Vanguard, Mr. Jide Ajan. Mr. Jide, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much.
All right, so before we ended the last program, we were talking about intrigues in some of these political parties. Would you like to really dive deep into some of the intrigues that we experienced in some of these political parties leading up to this election?
Okay, we'll start with the APC.
Right.
The emergence of Abdullahi Adamu as the chairman of the party was caused to happen by the opposition from the villa, specifically it didn't go down with some people, and that moved into the campaigns for the ticket of the party, special tickets. And if you remember the famous Emilokon outburst in America, Tinubu felt he was trying to edge him out of the race, and eventually at the convention ground, what we saw was democracy. But people believe that there were some underhand activities that went on leading to the stepping down of some of the candidates. Now, that same thing is still happening now with the insinuation and the allegation that the Naira swap policy, the forced scarcity, is targeted at the kind of the APC by a certain cabal within the villa, within the CVDs, giving rise to the wicked insinuation that you have Tinubu APC, Buhari APC. That's for APC. And for the PDP, which is even deeper, the crisis it is facing now, which is the issue of the G5 government, needn't arise at all if the chairman of the party, Ayu, had not made the commitment he made after he was elected. He said if the party chooses a northern candidate, and the leader of the party tells him to step down, as a mark of sacrifice, he will step down. Immediately, Elijah Atiku Abubakar emerged. It was expected that Ayu would step down, but he reneged. There were 3 NEC meetings, and at each point, a vote of confidence was passed, which means the leadership of the party did not tell him to step down, so he can be said to continue. But the man's word should be his bond. That's the party. But there's a constitutional issue. What the G5 governors are saying is that you can't have the kind of the party for the president to come from the north and chairman from the north. However, the party constitution says if the chairman of the party, either from the north or the south, is caused to leave that office, the person that will take over must come from that same zone from where the chairman is. So if the argument of the G5 governors is that Ayu is a northerner and Ayu decides today to step down, the person that will take over as chairman is Alhaji Damagum, who is also from the north and is deputy chairman north. Interestingly, he's from the northeast zone where Atiku Abubakar also comes from. So that makes whatever transition they're trying to engage a bit tenuous, because it would achieve nothing. Now, the argument in some quarters by the G5 is that the party can infuse the doctrine of necessity to ensure that this happens. But then, if they make it southerner, the chairman of the party, it will have to affect every other executive office down the line. Because what it then means is the national secretary that is from the south would have to go to the north. National organizing secretary that is in the north would have to come to the south. And there are other offices like that. But what that will mean is that it's as good as going for another convention altogether to pick a chairman from the south.
That will cost the party a lot.
Exactly. So that, although if Dr. Ayu had stepped down, that would have been any problem. But then, that's why in politics, people like the concept of the known and the unknown. Nobody expected COVID to happen. But it happened. And we lived through it. Now, if the G5 governors had envisaged that this type of situation would arise, perhaps their insistence on General Lagunso, who was supposed to be deputy chairman south, because at the last minute in their convention that threw up Ayu, they wanted him to step down, and he said he wasn't going to step down because they went to bring him and said he should come and contest. And just into the convention, they said he should step, and he said he wasn't. So when people are saying within the party that perhaps if Oyinlola had been the deputy chairman south,
should have been easy.
And Oyinlola to being part of the old guard in the PDP, perhaps Ayu could have stepped down. But that's their party problem. The issue is that the constitution of the party is supreme. And some people have also asked the question that when did the issue of Ayu being a Northerner actually emerge? When they went for the convention that drew up Atiku, Ayu was a Northerner.
Right.
When one of the G5 governors, that's Governor Wiki, was angling to become the running mate, Ayu was still a Northerner. There was no issue like that. Until the time when Wiki lost out both the ticket and the running mate ticket. That's when the issue of North-South dichotomy surfaced. And that's why I say Nigerians are good at whatever favors them at any particular point in time is what is good. Whatever doesn't favor them at a particular point in time is what is bad. Until we junk that mentality,
right,
we keep having this crisis.
But at the point, ex-governor from those states, Governor Mimiko, was also thrown into the mix. Was there any special arrangement for that? Was there any special thing they were trying to achieve? Trying to draw ex-governor Mimike.
No, the story then was that in the event that Ayu steps down,
right,
he was being thrown up as alleged a compromise candidate. That in the event that Ayu steps down,
right,
Mimiko will come in. And what the mistake Nigerian politicians make is always this issue of we against them. Not just they, the elites now, because the crisis of development that we face, right, is as a result of the elite consensus to push this country down. If there's an elite consensus to make Nigeria great, Nigeria will become very, very great.
Right.
Until that elite consensus is built,
right, within
PDP.
Right.
There's a lot of PDP.
Right.
That this party must be for us and to serve Nigerians. Then this crisis won't have arisen. What they wanted to do was for the G5, they will now bring in Mimiko as a chairman.
Right.
So what that would then mean is that the old guard as a presidential candidate in Atiku,
right,
they, the so-called new guard, the governors, will now have Mimiko as a chairman.
Right.
But to what end would that serve?
Right.
Is it that there will be contestation within the party such that it is them, old guard, against with the new guard? Until they junk that thinking, the party will still have the same problem.
Well, the same way the APC and, of course, PDP have had their internal, intrigues and all of that, the ADC recently, also seemed to have some of the political issues to not just the ADC, of course, the Labour Party. At the point Peter Obi's candidacy was challenged, and then I think they actually resolved that before this election. And of course, ABGA, very interesting, a party a lot of us feel it is well rooted in the Southeast, has thrown up two presidential candidates. What do you make of these other political parties?
Well, I think they're just political parties in name, with due respects to their founders.
Well, ABGA is big.
ABGA is big, but in this context of the presidency of Nigeria, ABGA has hardly been part of the conversation. And that's the truth. Now, the way people set up parties in the country,
right,
they see it as a vehicle to leverage certain opportunities.
Right.
That's why you see some mushroom parties, about 10 bond together and say they are endorsing a particular candidate. And then you ask, of what quantum are they? What you see in ADC, in Labour, in ABGA is a reflection of that Nigerian thinking,
right,
of any opportunity that arises. How can we make the best of it for our own personal benefit, not for the larger good of the society? That's why in ADC, for instance, it had the primaries.
Right.
The presidential candidate, Dumebi Kachiku, emerged.
Right.
Then suddenly you ask yourself, the founding chairman, I can't really remember his name now, who is now leading the other faction, suddenly
Umeuzi or something, right,
suddenly comes up and says he's leading another faction of the party. Meanwhile, the party itself as a united front is no match for the way Labour is now, or
right,
the way APC is,
right,
or the way PDP is.
Right.
Now it's even further factionalizing itself down the line. So to what end would you ask they want to achieve as an objective?
All right, sir. Okay, let's quickly touch on the National Assembly candidates. A lot of Nigerians seem to be interested only, with who becomes the president. And of course, we know the impact of having an elected representative, in the National Assembly. That could go a long way, in deciding how much democratic dividends you get, down here in your community. So tell us what has been happening, with some of our candidates. Just recently, ex-governor of Abia State, Dr. Oji Uzokalu, was suspended by his party, the APC, for anti-party activities. What exactly do you make of that, sir?
For the Abia issue regarding Kalu, the party has debunked that. So that can actually be said. The challenge I have and I see is that the National Assembly that is going to emerge, particularly the Senate,
Right.
in my view, will be a tainted Senate.
Tainted in what sense?
Yeah. 2 candidates who did not participate in the primaries have now been allocated the ticket by the Supreme Court.
Who are these candidates?
Senator Akpabio,
Right.
Akwa Ibom Northwest, and the incumbent Senate President, Ahmad Lawan, Yobe North.
Right.
The court has spoken.
Right.
They are now candidates of APC. Interestingly, if APC takes over again, the office will be zoned. You have the president coming from the southwest, his running mates coming from the northeast.
East, yeah.
That is where Lawan also hails from,
Right.
northeast.
Right.
So, in my view, I do not see how APC will zone the Senate presidency to the northeast. So, Lawan will not return as Senate president. Then you have the issue of Akpabio, who also emerged to the Supreme Court. He's from the south-south. In the event that the ticket is zoned to the south-south, an Akpabio Senate presidency will still carry that overhang of having come there to the Supreme Court. That's for that. But in terms of the legislation that we expect, which really should be the issue, this outgoing Senate,
Right.
and even perhaps House of Reps,
Right.
cannot be compared in terms of quality representation
Right.
with the immediate past NAS.
Right.
In terms of number of bills passed, number of motions passed, number of times they even sat. So Nigerians should prepare to hold their legislators accountable, because until that is done, focusing on the executive arm alone will not solve any problem.
Right, hold your representatives, accountable. Well, you just said that from Mr. Jide Ajani, the general editor of Vanguard. He's been speaking with us on some of the intrigues in the political parties, of course, leading up to this election. Well, of course, it is still Nigeria Decides 2023 here on Vanguard Live, broadcasting to you live from Lagos, Southwest Nigeria. Of course, the show still continues, but do not forget to follow us and like all our social media platform that is showing on your screen there, and of course visit our website www.vanguard.ng, where you can get live updates on all the latest happenings in this election. It is bye for now.